Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We commence by exalting and glorifying Allah, the Most High, and we bear witness that none has the absolute right to be worshipped, obeyed, and surrendered to except Him alone. And we testify that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is His final messenger and the seal of prophethood. We invoke Allah's peace and countless blessings upon him, upon all the prophets and messengers who preceded him, upon his noble family, and upon his righteous companions who stood alongside him in the struggle for truth. And we ask Allah to include us among those who sincerely follow in their blessed footsteps until the last day. May Allah make us among them. Ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, rather than speaking exclusively about the virtues of Shaban, as we have now entered into this significant month, I want to focus on a particular attitude, an attitude that Allah, in His infinite wisdom, observes in some of His servants, an attitude that becomes especially pronounced in Shaban and in other overlooked moments throughout the year. This discussion is not merely about Shaban as a month. Rather, it is about the mindset of seizing the right moments and being in the right place at the right time. When it comes to your relationship with Allah, it is about how a person positions themselves spiritually in the divine opportunities that Allah has provided. And here you all are, gathered in this blessed moment. May Allah accept from every single one of you, for indeed, this is the right place and the right time. To introduce this concept, I want you to reflect on something from the worldly perspective: business opportunities. Imagine someone who, through keen observation and insight, manages to capitalize on a rare financial opportunity. Perhaps they entered a booming market at just the right time, invested in a growing trend before it became popular, or acquired stocks before their value skyrocketed. Others scramble to get in later, but those who arrived early dominate the market. People look at such individuals and say, they were just in the right place at the right time. But is success really accidental? More often than not, it is not. Yes, there are exceptions. Some people stumble upon fortune unexpectedly. However, in most cases, success is a direct result of vigilance, of being aware of the trends that others neglect, of making informed decisions, and of being prepared when the opportunity arises. These individuals might not have possessed extraordinary intelligence or unique skills, but they had something crucial: alertness. They were paying attention while others were distracted. They were making moves while others were idle. Now, let's shift this analogy to a spiritual reality. Allah, in His immense mercy, has not concealed the opportunities that lead to success in the hereafter. He has made known the sacred moments and the sacred places where His divine mercy is multiplied beyond measure. Unlike worldly opportunities where success can be uncertain, Allah has granted you certainty in spiritual opportunities. You are not left guessing about when and where you should exert yourself. The windows of mercy are clear, the rewards are well defined, and the invitations to goodness are evident. Think about Ramadan, its last 10 nights, among which lies Laylatul Qadr, a single night worth more than 1,000 months of worship. Is that not an incredible deal? You have a set period, a golden opportunity to exert yourself and reap a lifetime of rewards. But before Ramadan arrives, there is Shaban, a month that many people neglect. A month that serves as a preparatory phase, a time of hidden blessings, a chance to warm up before the grand race of Ramadan begins. If Ramadan is the main event, Shaban is the training ground. Any athlete knows that if they neglect their practice sessions, their performance in the actual game will suffer. You may have natural talent, you may be spiritually inclined, but if you do not use Shaban effectively, the lack of preparation will inevitably show. So, what does it truly mean to be in the right place at the right time? What does excellence in seizing divine opportunities look like? There are 4 key elements that define spiritual excellence in timing: doing acts of worship when others are neglectful, doing more than what is expected in your circumstances, doing more of what everyone else is doing, doing acts of worship quicker and with greater enthusiasm. Let's unpack these 4 categories, inshallah. 1. Worshipping when others are neglectful. One of the clearest examples of this is praying at night while others are asleep. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, specifically encouraged this by saying, pray at night while others are sleeping. Everyone is expected to pray the 5 daily prayers, but there is something special about the one who rises while the world is in slumber, when others are lost in their dreams, and they stand before Allah in solitude, speaking to their Lord in the stillness of the night. Imagine the angels descending upon the earth, looking for those engaged in worship. And at one point in history, there was only one household praying, the Prophet, peace be upon him, his wife and his son-in-law. The entire world was asleep, and yet, in that single home, the light of worship continued to shine. Likewise, giving in charity when others are withholding is an act of distinction. The angels invoke blessings upon those who give. As the Prophet, peace be upon him, narrated, the angel says, "O Allah, give more to the one who gives, and withhold from the one who withholds." Similarly, fasting when others are eating is another way to stand out. The Prophet, peace be upon him, mentioned that when a person fasts voluntarily while others around them are eating, the angels continuously pray for them until they finish their meal. 2. Doing more than what is expected in your circumstances. Some acts of worship shine not just because they are performed, but because they are performed in extraordinary circumstances. Giving in charity when you are struggling financially, forgiving when you have every right to hold a grudge, choosing patience when you are provoked. These are all moments where a person rises above expectations and earns Allah's special pleasure. 3. Doing more of what everyone else is doing. During Ramadan, everyone fasts, but some fast beyond Ramadan. Everyone prays, but some add extra voluntary prayers. Everyone gives zakat, but some go beyond their obligatory charity. The doors of paradise, like the gate of Salah, the gate of fasting, the gate of charity, are reserved for those who excel in these deeds. 4. Doing acts of worship with enthusiasm and urgency. It is not just about performing acts of worship, but about doing them with a sense of eagerness. The Prophet, peace be upon him, would jump to prayer as soon as the call was made with a lion-like energy. In contrast, the hypocrites dragged their feet to prayer lazily. Where do we fall on that spectrum? Shaban, the month of preparation and distinction. So how does this relate to Shaban? This is the month that most people neglect. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was observed fasting in Sha'ban more than in any other month outside of Ramadan. When asked why, he explained, "It is a month that people are heedless about between Rajab and Ramadan." This is your chance to stand out? The righteous predecessors called Shaban month of the reciters, because while everyone recites Quran in Ramadan, only the true lovers of the Quran begin their recitation in Shaban. Take this time to build momentum. If you plan to read a certain amount in Ramadan, start reading half of that now. If you expect to give in charity, start now. If you aim to increase in prayer, begin today. The one who shines is the one who does when others do not. The one who takes advantage of the hidden seasons of mercy. May Allah make us among those who rise when others sleep, who give when others withhold, who fast when others feast, and who strive when others are heedless. May He grant us the ability to shine in Shaban, to excel in Ramadan, and to be counted among His most beloved servants. Ameen. We commence by glorifying and praising Allah, the Most High, and bearing witness that there is none worthy of worship, nor any deserving of absolute obedience, except Him alone. And we testify that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is His final messenger and prophet. We invoke Allah's peace and blessings upon him, upon all the noble prophets and messengers who preceded him, upon his family and righteous companions who stood by his side, and upon those who follow in their footsteps until the day of judgment. And we supplicate to Allah, the most merciful, to include us among them. My dear brothers and sisters, as we find ourselves in the blessed month of Shaban, rather than simply discussing its virtues and merits, though they are many, I wish to address a particular attitude that Allah, the All-Knowing, observes in some of His servants, an attitude that becomes especially apparent in times when people tend to be heedless. This discussion is not solely about Shaban, but rather about an essential mindset one of striving to be at the right place at the right time in our relationship with Allah. Here we are today, gathered in a blessed gathering. May Allah accept from every single person present, for indeed this is the right place and the right time. But before we delve into this concept from a spiritual perspective, let us first reflect upon something from a worldly standpoint. The right place at the right time, a worldly analogy. Imagine a person who recognizes an exceptional business opportunity before others do. They enter a market at just the right moment, invest wisely, and soon their wealth multiplies. People around them say, they were simply at the right place at the right time, as if it were mere coincidence. But in reality, true success is rarely accidental. Those who seize great opportunities are often those who are paying closer attention than others. They are constantly analyzing trends, asking the right questions, and making calculated moves when others are oblivious. They possess an extra level of alertness that allows them to capitalize on what many overlook. Now think of this in terms of your relationship with Allah. When Allah, in His infinite mercy, gives you clear knowledge of the special times and places where His mercy is abundant, it is as though He is presenting you with an opportunity greater than any business deal. Unlike worldly opportunities that require extensive research, effort, and sometimes luck, Allah makes it easy for us. He explicitly tells us when and where His mercy is at its peak. There are limited windows of time that contain unlimited mercy. Consider the last 10 nights of Ramadan, 10 nights in exchange for a lifetime of good deeds. What an incredible deal. Yet, despite knowing this, it is left to us to make the decision to be present, to show up, and to take advantage of these golden opportunities. Shaban, a month of preparation and opportunity. Shaban is often neglected because it sits between the sacred month of Rajab and the great month of Ramadan. However, the Prophet emphasized its significance by increasing his fasting in this month more than any other outside of Ramadan. When asked why he did so, he responded that Shaban is a month in which people are heedless, and it is also a time when deeds are presented to Allah. He said, I love that my deeds be presented to Allah while I am in a state of fasting. Think about this deeply. The Prophet did not just fast in Sha'ban. For his own personal spirituality, he fasted because he recognized an overlooked opportunity to be in the right state when his deeds were being recorded. This is an example of spiritual awareness, of knowing when to shine in Allah's sight when others are heedless. The 4 elements of spiritual excellence. To be spiritually successful in the sight of Allah, there are 4 key ways to shine. Doing what others are not doing. Going beyond what is expected of you, increasing the quantity of what everyone else is doing. Doing acts of worship with greater enthusiasm and urgency. 1. Doing what others are not doing. This is one of the most distinguishing marks of a sincere believer. While others sleep, you pray. While others withhold, you give. While others are occupied with worldly distractions, you are engaged in remembrance of Allah. Think of the immense honor of being among the few who pray tahajjud while the majority of the world is asleep. Imagine the angels searching the earth at night and finding only a handful of people standing in prayer. Those are the people who stand out in the sight of Allah. The same applies to charity. When times are hard and people hesitate to give, the one who continues to give stands out. The Prophet said that when a person gives in charity, the angels supplicate for them, saying, "O Allah, grant more to the one who gives." And the same applies to fasting. The angels continue to pray for the one who fasts while others around them are eating. When you choose to fast voluntarily outside of Ramadan, the angels make dua for you continuously. 2. Going beyond what is expected of you. There is something particularly beloved to Allah about those who exceed expectations in their worship and in their conduct. Forgiving when others expect retaliation, giving when others assume you would withhold, showing patience when others assume you would lose your temper. These are the actions that truly distinguish a believer. 3. Doing more of what everyone else is doing. Many people pray, but how many people increase in their voluntary prayers? Many people fast Ramadan, but how many fast extra days throughout the year? The Prophet mentioned specific gates of Jannah, for those who excel in certain deeds, gates that are reserved not for those who simply fulfill the obligation, but for those who go above and beyond. 4. Doing acts of worship with enthusiasm and urgency. The difference between an enthusiastic worshiper and a lazy one is not just in quantity but in quality. When the call to prayer was made, the prophet would immediately rise like a lion, eager to stand before his Lord. In contrast, the hypocrites would approach prayer sluggishly, dragging their feet. Where do we fall on this spectrum? The prophet said that if people knew the virtue of being in the first row of prayer, they would draw lots to secure their place. This shows that not all prayers are equal, just as not all acts of worship carry the same reward. There is immense virtue in hastening toward Allah with enthusiasm and sincerity. Shaban, the month of the reciters. Ramadan is called the month of the Quran, but do you know what the righteous predecessors called Shaban? They called it the month of the reciters. Why? Because those who were truly committed to the Quran did not wait for Ramadan. They began their recitation and reflection in Shaban. If you plan to read a certain amount of Quran in Ramadan, begin now. Even if it is half or one-third of your Ramadan goal, start carving out that time. Establishing the habit in Shaban will make it much easier to sustain in Ramadan. Final reflections, your time to shine. Shaban is a hidden treasure, a time when many are heedless. But when you have the opportunity to shine before Allah, whether through fasting, prayer, charity, recitation of the Quran, or any other form of worship, take advantage of this month. We ask Allah to make us among those who seize His special times with sincerity, to grant us the ability to excel in our worship, and to allow us to enter Ramadan already spiritually prepared. May He make us among those who strive when others are heedless, and may He grant us His mercy in abundance. Ameen.